Gallium! Gallium is getting so popular you'll be getting your future spouse an engagement ring made of it. Today I'll be looking at the S.M.S.L PA200 gallium nitride power amplifier and comparing it to the S.M.S.L PA200 gallium nitride power amplifier. But first, let's unbox. Okay, I can see a bit of styling going on here. Whether it's to my taste or not is irrelevant, because it's your taste that matters. But although I tend towards more plain, I don't see why equipment shouldn't have a bit of style for those who like it. Now, since my last review was of another gallium nitride amp from S.M.S.L, I don't think it's unreasonable to compare the two. In fact, I think it's entirely reasonable to consider the mores and the lesses of the two options. More cost or less cost might be a topic that's on your mind. So let's start with price. I don't often talk about pricing in my reviews. Different people have different budgets, so it's a bit pointless to say, for instance, that something is expensive to a rich audiophile who already has a Porsche and a Ferrari for the weekend. But comparing the price of two similar equipments, I think, is perfectly reasonable. So, today I have the S.M.S.L PA200, the price of which I see online as $419 USD. This compares to the S.M.S.L PA200 at $699, a $280 difference. I've said this before, and I'm sure I'll say it again, that if your source and your amplifier are adequate, you'll get much better sound if you put more of your budget into your speakers, rather than yearning for that extra zero to the right of the decimal point of the distortion figure. So bear that in mind, because I always do. Whether this amp has adequate functionality rather depends on what you expect it to do. As a power amp, I expect it to take in a line level signal and pump it out at speaker volume. That's about it, really. Some power amps have a volume control, some don't, and both are fine depending on what you want. This amp does, but in terms of physical controls, that's it. Of course it controls power on, off, and access to menu functions as well, and I suppose we often expect that these days. I'll come back to the menu functions later. Around the back we have analog inputs and speaker outputs. No digital. None of that slice and dice stuff that many die-hard audiophiles dislike so much. So it's RCA line inputs and that's it. No coaxial, no optical, and no, my favourite, USB-C. Analog all the way. In terms of RCA inputs and the lack of anything digital, this is exactly the same as the PA200, which I'll remind you costs $280 more. But there's one difference. The PA200 has two balanced XLR inputs, left and right. That's for stereo. But you can bridge the channels and use it as a mono amp, which presumably would be one of a pair of monoblocks. In the PA200, there's one XLR which is always for mono mode. So that's a small difference. The extra $280 gets you a pair of balanced inputs for stereo. Go cheap and cheerful and you get one XLR input, which I presume is balanced. Actually, I think I presumed that the XLRs on the PA-X were balanced, but come on, why wouldn't they be? Looking at the outputs, we have binding posts that are compatible with banana plugs, with legending that clearly shows how to connect for stereo and how to connect for mono, same as the PA-X. Oh, here's something that I didn't include in my PA-X review, mains input. You know, I'm tiring a bit of amps that need an external power supply. In fact, of anything that needs an external power supply. They used to be a convenience for manufacturers, selling into different countries with different mains voltages. But now we have internal power supplies that can handle any voltage without the user having to switch anything, or even pay any attention. So, if there were a vote, I'd be voting internal power supplies all the way. So for that $280 price difference, we're not seeing all that much difference yet. But let's dive into the menu functions and see what is what. So we have amp mode. Now this is a place that the two amps differ. The PA-X offers RCA input, XLR input or mono. The PA200 has stereo or mono, but also volume control on or off. You know, I like this. Personally, I'd drive this amp from my audio interface in my studio or my TV in my living room. I wouldn't need the volume control for my studio, but I would for my living room. I like having the option. Other users might have a preamp and they do all of their volume controlling there. Everyone's happy. Let me throw in though that the manual for the PA-X does mention a stereo pass-through mode, but doesn't explain how to use it, nor is it obvious from the menu options. I'll just leave that dangling for now. Next, we have a dimmer, which switches the display off after a set amount of time, or having it always on, just like the PA-X, and a brightness control. You know, this might sound like a small thing, but I've had equipment on my desk that didn't have a brightness control, and the brightness was too much. One more, reset. I don't think I'll do that right now. Everything's just nice. What we don't have among the menus, which is in part why you're saving $280, is load type, which sets the expected impedance of your speakers, 8 ohms or 4 ohms. I don't think I've seen this before in an amp, and I've been getting along without it for quite a few decades. But the PA-X has it, and the PA200 doesn't. There's no option for user interface style, text, or graphics. The PA-X in either mode tells you useful stuff that you'd like to know, like the load type setting, stereo mono, RCA or XLR inputs. The PA200 only has the volume setting. That's it. 0 to 70 like the PA-X. At this point, if I were a PA200 buyer, I'd be rather pleased that I have an extra $280 to put into my speaker budget. But let's dig deeper. What's the most important specification in a power amplifier? The clue's in the name. Power. The power specifications of the PA-X unfortunately had a couple of misprints both in the manual and online when I did my review. I've checked again online today, and I noticed that the S.M.S.L website still has these misprints, typos if you like. But the APOS audio page for the PA-X does, in fact, make sense, so I'll use these figures for comparison. To keep this simple, let's go for 8 ohm speakers in stereo. Ready to learn where your $280 extra are really going? Okay, PA200, 8 ohm load in stereo. 85 watts RMS. PA-X 8 ohm load in stereo, 200 watts RMS. Okay, so for your extra $280, you get 115 extra watts. That's $2.43 and a bit per watt. I think we're onto something here. This is a real value proposition. Pay $280 USD more and you get 200 watts rather than 85. Which would you rather have? Oh, in decibel terms, it's an extra 3.7 dB, or $75.68 per decibel. What do you think about that? So for my PA-X review, I hooked the amp up to my Yamaha NS10M Studio speakers. That's studio as in the model name, in my studio. I found that with the output of my audio interface up full, a volume setting of 33 was just too loud for comfortable listening. With my monster B&W 801s, just a little more at 34 or 35, was just over the edge of too loud. Yes, I know these depend on the levels of the inputs, but it's what I see as a real-world user, so I do think it's relevant. Now, What about the PA200? It may seem odd, but the same settings work with the PA200. Wouldn't you expect an amp of low power to need a higher volume setting? Well, not necessarily. All it shows is that the gain of each amp is similar. The PAX, with its higher power specification, has more in reserve, which you might indeed appreciate on peaks if you're an unwisely high volume listener. As for the other specs, the PA200 is a little noisier at 109 dB signal-to-noise ratio against 115. Distortion is the same. Frequency response, well, I only see a chart for an 8 ohm load. It's as ruler flat as anyone could possibly need, but we don't see a response for 4 ohms. And, as seems to be commonplace with Class D amps, response can be load dependent. Yes, my quibble with the PAX is that it has a switch on click. Not a thump, but a definite click. It's my belief that a power amp should switch on silently, and so should everything else for that matter, but it's the power amp that's most important. I didn't compare the two amps directly, but the PA200 does seem to click a little quieter. As for other quibbles, well, I don't use a subwoofer at present, but sub owners might have liked to have seen an aux output, but neither amp has one, just so you know. It would be very hard to dislike this amp. Whether gallium nitride really does provide any audible benefits, I'm a bit of a skeptic. But if it improves efficiency, runs at a lower temperature, uses less mains, I said if, then I'd be all for it. So yes, a likeable, no-frills amp with a decent 85 watts to give. And remember, you'll have $280 to add to your speaker budget. See you soon.